Hey everyone, this is Riddle Hakureja Rave and I'm here with my recap and review of Boruto Naruto Next Generation's anime episode number 274, which is titled A Flightless Hawk. And this is the first episode in a new mini arc. If I'm correct, I think that this mini arc is supposed to have 5 or 4 episodes. I could be wrong. But yeah, this arc is going to focus on Boruto accompanying Sasuke on this mission because the hawk that Sasuke used it's getting close to retiring, and Sasuke needs a new hawk, and of course other issues arise as well. Now this episode opens up with the scene between Salad and Sakura, and Sakura is training Salad, and I like to see that. Sakura has continued to train Salad, especially because I think it was like the previous time we saw Sasuke and Sakura training Salad, that was like 100 episodes ago or close to that. So yeah, it's nice to see that in the anime even that Sakura is continuing with training Salad and everything, and yeah, Sakura is the one who tells Salad that, you know what, your dad's hawk is retiring, so he needs a new hawk, and so he's out with Boruto. And Salad is like, well, he could have told me that himself, and he ended up taking Boruto. I would have liked to accompany him and whatnot. And I'm like, you know what? As far as I can, yeah, I'm on Salad's side with this. Like, if my dad is freaking Sasuke and he's out on missions, I would like to accompany him too. Especially when I know that he's not taking me and he's taking my team member Boruto. So yeah, I can understand where Salad's coming from. And Salad is like throwing these not kunais, my bad, shurikens at a target, and there's this shuriken she throws, and she ends up being emotional, and she's like slices off one of the corners of the target, and Sakura is like, hey, you're getting way too emotional, don't let your emotions get the better of you, remain calm. And yeah, Salad outright asks Sakura about how she's so okay with dad just leaving, and Sakura is like, well, he leaves and he comes back without telling, and you know what, I'm okay with it. I've grown used to it, and if I end up being shocked every time he leaves without telling me, I wouldn't be able to stand. And I'm like, I'm not really sure what to think of this, what to make of this particular scene, because on one hand, Sasuke did tell Sakura that he's going out on a mission to get a new hawk, and he also told Sakura that he's going to take Boruto with him. So it's not like that he doesn't communicate with her. And on the same time, the anime writers ended up using this moment for a comedic effect, because we saw Sakura, she throws a shuriken, and because even though she advises Salad not to be emotional, she ends up being emotional, and the shuriken that she throws, that ends up destroying the entire target, and Salad is like, I mean, yeah, that scene made me laugh, but when I thought about it, I'm like, again, it doesn't make any sense, because I mean, we know that Sasuke communicates with Sakura. We know that. We know that Sakura basically knows what he's up to. But yeah, it was weird. It was a weird scene. And again, he did tell her about going out to find a replacement hawk. Weird. Again, weird. So we cut to Sasuke and Boruto. They're on the Thunder Train, and they're making their way to a faraway land where Sasuke needs a Senri hawk. Like, the hawk that he'll be using is known as a Senri hawk because it's able to cover leagues in a day, so it's quite fast and everything. And apparently there's this guy who knows where the Senri Hawks are, so they need to go and meet this guy. Now, as far as the names of the new characters are concerned, it's going to take me time to really remember them. I think his name is Motora or something, but yeah. Anyway, as these two are talking, they overhear this guy talking about how there's a landslide, and the train is like taking a long route to the area that Sasuke and Boruto need to go. And yeah, basically the train is taking them further and further away from that particular location, and Sasuke and Boruto are like, well, it's time for us to jump off. And Boruto's like, really, we're just going to jump off the train? There isn't even a road here? And Sasuke's like, come on, Boruto, let's just go. And Boruto's like, okay. That's kind of what makes Sasuke cool. So as they're making their way to, again, that guy's name Motora, I could be wrong. I could be remembering wrong. So they end up seeing this very flashy building, and you can tell that this building, like, it kind of feels like it's like a gambling hub and whatnot. And Sasuke is like, well, I highly doubt that that's where the guy that we're supposed to meet operates from. So as they're about to go on their way, they end up meeting this guy. He's supposedly the captain of the security team, and he has this wolf, and he's like, hey, you guys are trespassing. Who are you? I feel that you two are sketchy. And Sasuke is like, hey, we're just walking, we're just making our way through this land. We need no trouble. However, Bruto doesn't like the fact that the captain points at him and says that he's sketchy, and Bruto allows his emotions to get the best of him, and he kind of yells at the captain, and he's like, hey, we aren't doing anything wrong, yada yada yada. And Sasuke is like, Bruto, let's just go. So as they're making their way to the old man's house, there was also a scene where Bruto keeps on complaining about the security guard, and Sasuke is like, are you still complaining about that? Yeah, Bruto needs to let some of his emotions go, but then again, he's like Naruto when it comes when you think about it, especially when it comes to that aspect of him. So they end up reaching this research center, I guess. It's like a research center for birds. And as they're making their way to the research center, they notice this rock slide, and they're like, okay, so this looks suspicious. And they keep on walking towards the house, and this is where we see Motora, and he has a crossbow, and he shoots at Boruto. He ends up shooting at Sasuke as well, and of course Sasuke just he grabs the arrow, and he's like, hey, why are you shooting at us? And as far as Motora is concerned, well, we get an entire conversation where the lady who operates that flashy building, who's the owner of that flashy building, she's been threatening Motora because her name is Mozu. And apparently her business is she ends up stealing or kidnapping, basically stealing animals that are near extinction, like very very rare animals, and then she sells them off to the highest bidder. And she's been pestering Motora about telling her where the sentry hawk live, because she wants to sell off a sentry hawk. And Motora hasn't been he told her no, and now she's using threats and everything in order to get him to talk and whatnot. And yeah, but he's like, I also know that she's responsible for the rock slide, but because I don't have any proof, I can't do anything. And Sasuke and Boruto are they're like, well, we need a hawk. And Motora is like, well, I can't even take you there, because the moment I take you guys there to the hawk's nest, I know that I'll be followed, and Mozu will know where the hawks live. And Sasuke is like, well, you know what? I have a plan. So Sasuke and Boruto go back to the flashy building, and Boruto's like, okay, so you have a plan to infiltrate the building, right? And Sasuke's like, nope. And he ends up knocking at the gate, and he's like, hey, I'm a customer, let me in. And yeah, they let Boruto and Sasuke in. And Mozu, she's in her office, and she's looking at Boruto and Sasuke, and she's like, they don't look rich enough. They look shabby, they look poor, they don't have a lot of money, and I only work with people who have money, so why don't you scare these two people away? And while that's happening, we have this wall where there are pictures of very, very rich people who ended up coming here and buying animals and posing, I guess. And this is where Boruto ends up recognizing Tento. His name was Tento, right? Or something, the feudal lord's son. And yeah, they're like, oh, you know the feudal lord? And because Mozu is listening into the conversation from her office, she's like, oh, okay, so Boruto, he seems like an important person. So she ends up greeting him, and she's like, oh, so you're friends with the feudal lord, why didn't you say that before? Let me show you the premises. And she walks Sasuke and Boruto through the premises. She wants to take them to where she keeps the animals. And as they're making their way there, they end up meeting this little kid who is very dirty. He's been cleaning the horse stables, and it turns out that he's basically, I think his name is Sozora or something. I could be wrong. Again, the names of these filler characters. So he turns out to be Mozu's son, and you can tell that he's very into taking care of the animals, even though his mom is very into the business part of things. So she takes them to the animal enclosures. And yeah, Boruto is he doesn't like the fact that very rare animals are being kept in cages. And this is where Sasuke and Boruto ask about the security and everything. Yeah, Sasuke is the one who asks about security. She asks one of her assistants to take off his shoe. I like his bare foot right there. So she ends up throwing the shoe into the air, and yeah, the security system ends up shooting these very sharp spikes at the shoe. And she's like, yeah, everyone's protected, our employees, our guests, the animals, no one can break in. And I'm like, are you sure about that? So Bruto notices an empty cage and he's like, why is this cage empty? A bird cage? And yeah, Mozu is like, well, I've been saving this because I want to put a sentry hawk in there. And yeah, that gets to Boruto. He basically lashes he yells at Mozu. He starts lashing at her with his tongue, and he's like, "Oh, so you've been keeping these extinct animals in cages and you're then selling them off. Don't you have a heart and whatnot," and yada yada yada. And again, Bruto allows his emotions to get the best of him, and Sasuke has to intervene. And Sasuke's like, "Bruto, shush, and let's go." And Mozu doesn't like the fact that she ended up being fooled by these two. So as Sasuke and Boruto are walking away, Boruto's like, Sasuke-san, how can you just let her do what she's doing to those animals? Don't you feel bad for them? And Sasuke's like, yes, of course I feel bad for them. I know where you're coming from, but right now we can't do anything foolish, okay, Boruto? So yeah, these two walk off, and you can tell that Boruto still has a lot to learn when it comes to being a shinobi. And then we see Mozu talking to the captain of the security team, and she's like, "Hey, how's that wolf doing that I gave you?" And he's like, "Well, that wolf ended up being very helpful. All of the people who ended up annoying us, they aren't here anymore." And she's like, "Well, I need you to go and go after Sasuke and Boruto. I need you to take those two off the board." And he's like, "Yep, my pleasure." So it's nighttime, and Motora wants to take Sasuke to where the Sentry Hawks are, and Boruto has to stay at the cottage, and he's like, "Why me? Why me?" And Motora is like, "Well, I can only take one of you, okay? Sorry, kid." So these two are walking, and of course they notice that the captain of the security team is following them, and yeah, Sasuke ends up creating a diversion. We see crows. It was very Itachi vibes. And Sasuke and Motora is like, "Okay, so with the captain off our trail, let's continue our journey." And then it's the next day, and it's morning. Boruto is bored. However, he ends up noticing this like white hawk. He follows the hawk, and it turns out that the hawk belongs to Mozu's son. And Boruto's like, "Oh wow, why is this hawk white?" And it turns out that this is a very rare breed of this particular type of hawk. And yeah, the son, Mozu's son, Sozura, again, I'm not really sure about this name. So yeah, Mozu's son has been he's been trying to train the hawk, because it turns out that when the hawk was a baby, it fell from his nest, it got injured, and Yuki, yeah, the hawk's name is Yuki because it's white as snow. And yeah, the kid has been taking care of Yuki, and because Yuki hasn't grown up in the wild, the kid has been trying to train Yuki to survive in the wild. And Boruto's like, "Hey, I'll help you, okay? I'll help you." And we get a montage of Boruto making these mice run away so that Yuki can catch them. But yeah, Yuki still needs time, and these two continue to bond as friends. And Boruto's like, "Hey, I had fun. I'll see you tomorrow." And yeah, the kid is like, "What the heck is that supposed to mean?" And Boruto's like, "It's a promise. I'll see you tomorrow." And that makes the kid happy. And then it's the next day, and Boruto is like, "Well, I did see a book about hawks in the cabin, so I'll bring that to the kid." He brings the book to the kid, and the kid is like, "Well, it won't do me any good because I can't read." So it turns out that Mozu hasn't allowed her own son to read because she doesn't want to send him to school. She doesn't want him to learn stuff that she doesn't want him to learn. And she's like, "Well, I'll teach you everything that you need to know that you need in order to run the business properly. So no school for you. You can't even read, you can't even write, and whatnot." And in a sense, the episode is titled "A Flightless Hawk," and in a sense, you can say that this kid is a flightless hawk himself. Like that, there's a metaphor going on around here. Boruto's like, "Hey, don't worry about it. I'll teach you how to read and whatnot." And he ends up teaching the kid to read. But before that, there's a conversation about the kid not necessarily wanting to take over his mother's business, because again, he cares about the animals, his mother doesn't. And yeah, and it's a lot of pressure that the kid feels because again, he even though he doesn't want to, it's just taking over the family business is just something that he thinks that he has to do. And Boruto ends up relating to the kid by saying that, "Hey, my dad's the Hokage. I felt pressure to follow his footsteps, but I ended up making my own path. And you have to live your own life, okay, kid?" And the kid is like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from." And this is where Boruto's like, "Hey, I'll teach you how to read and write, and he ends up teaching the kid how to write his own name, and of course the kid is excited. And then we get a scene where the kid goes to his mom again. He's like, hey mom, I want to read, I want to write, I want to go to school. And mom is like, no, that's all going to be very expensive, no school for you, I'll teach you everything you need to know. And again, she's basically like clipping her own son's wings like a flightless hawk. So the kid has been like he ends up writing his own name himself, and he also manages to write a message to Boruto, and he sends his hawk Yuki to take the message to Boruto. And I'm like, okay, so he ended up learning how to read and write in a single day. Okay, if you say so, anime, if you say so. And Boruto and the note that he sends Boruto is basically telling Boruto that he'll meet him tomorrow. And Boruto's like, hey Yuki, wait, I need to send a message back. And then we cut to Sasuke and Motora, or whatever that man's name is, and he takes him to the location where the Senri Hawks live. And yeah, he's like, Sasuke's like, where the heck are the Hawks? And the guy is like, well, they don't reveal themselves to anyone. They only reveal themselves to the people they trust. And he ends up whistling, and the Hawks come out. And Sasuke's like, now what? And yeah, this is where we get to learn that when it comes to Senri Hawks, they have to choose the person they'll be working with. And apparently there have been shinobi that have had so much bloodlust that the Hawks didn't come near them. And he tells Sasuke to just stand there with his arm raised. And if a Hawk chooses him, then yeah, he's okay. Yeah, he basically has to wait for a Hawk to select him, and it could take a day, it could take weeks. But now, as luck would have it, as the anime writers plot convenience and whatnot, Sasuke just raises his arm, and I think the leader of the Hawks, basically, I could be wrong, he ends up selecting Sasuke, and yeah, Sasuke's mission is, it's done now, it's done. So it's time for them to go back home. And it's the next day, it's the next morning, and yeah, Yuki is able to capture a prey on his own. And of course, Boruto and the kid are very happy about it, and they're like, yeah, Yuki, yeah. And yeah, this is where the kid's mom comes in with the security guard captain, and she's like, okay, so you Boruto, you're the one who's been putting these weird ideas into my kid's head. Like, no, you have to come back home. And the kid tries to confront his mom, and he's like, I don't want to go home, I want to make my own bat and whatnot, I want to read and write. And the captain, if you notice here, the captain actually ends up capturing Yuki, and of course the kid can't really argue much because he wants Yuki to remain safe. And the mom is like, let's go home now. And Boruto tries to intervene, and the captain is like, yeah, go ahead, do something and I'll arrest you. And the kid is like, Boruto, don't worry about me, I need to go home now. You have to understand. And Boruto's like, I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you tomorrow. It's a promise. And yeah, this is where the episode ends. And I have a feeling that with Sasuke coming back with his hawk, Boruto's going to ask Sasuke that, you know what, we have to stay here. We have to help the kid. And Sasuke will agree. I think that Sasuke will agree. And with the episode opening up with a scene between Salad and Sakura, I wouldn't be surprised if Sasuke ends up sending a Senri Hawk to Sakura and Salad or something, and they'll show up near the end of this particular arc to lend a hand. It could happen. Who knows? But yeah, if I end up doing a written review of this for the Geekery, the link to the review will be down in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of this episode. It was an okay start to a new arc. So let's see what happens. And I mean, of course, it's obvious that the kid is going to basically get what he wants. He might end up making his mom change her mind. Who knows? But yeah, let me know what you thought. And until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. See you guys later. Bye.